everyone, welcome back. About a year and a half ago, maybe a little bit longer than that, I did a video called Hooded or Downturned Eyes, ? Stop doing your eye makeup like a YouTuber. I know for a fact that a lot of my current subscribers are still with me because of that video. That's how you discovered me. And I am so happy that you did. That video is my second most successful video that I've ever done. And I am still loving the feedback that I get on it to this day. I still get comments on that video. Since then, I have done several other videos dedicated to those of us with hooded, downturned, aging eyes. But I really wanted to revisit that first video and give it a little update for this year. Because in the 20 or so months since I filmed that, I have learned some different techniques myself. I'm always learning. As an artist, you should never stop learning. Actually, in any field, you should never stop learning. And every day that passes, my eyes seem to get more hooded, more downturned. So I've just discovered some other techniques that I really wanted to share with you all. I still feel like that video is important, and if you haven't seen it, I will link it because I think that it's good to have options. I'm going to show you a different technique in this video than I did in that one, but I still believe in everything I presented to you in that video. So I do recommend seeing it, although I know a lot of you, like I said, came here are with my channel because of that video. So let's jump right into my updated for 2018 tips and tricks for hooded, downturned eyes. Some of the things I do in this video are going to seem a little bizarre to you, much like how I put the lid color on first in that original video. I didn't do a transition color like most YouTubers. So hopefully all of these tips and tricks combined will give you game-changing, life-changing results when it comes to how you apply your eye makeup and your confidence in doing your own makeup. So without further ado, let's get into this updated tutorial. So the first thing I want to talk about that is often overlooked in hooded eye videos is the importance of an eyeshadow primer, especially if you have oily lids. How many times have you applied eyeliner to your upper lash line, and with a hooded eye, when your eye is open, it transfers to the fleshy part of the lid, to the hood, and you're thinking, what the heck? This is supposed to be a smudge-proof, waterproof pencil, and it's not behaving that way. Whenever I receive that question, my reply is always, have you tried using an eyeshadow primer? Because this will often really help to keep that from happening. It also helps along the lower lash line. So I'm a big proponent of using eyeshadow primer. This is a must for me. Eyeshadow primers are something that I cannot live without. When I hear other makeup artists say that they don't feel like they're necessary, in my head, I think, you must not have very oily skin or very oily lids, or your clients have never come back to you and said that their eyeshadow hasn't stayed on. Because no matter what the brand of eyeshadow is on the market, I mean, I've probably tried it and it doesn't stay on my lids all day perfectly without an eyeshadow primer. So definitely try. This one is from Urban Decay, but there are tons on the market of all price ranges that are excellent. So find one that's in your budget and give it a try. Another thing that is often overlooked in other hooded eye videos is the importance of your brow shape. The shape of your brows can have a big impact on the overall appearance of your eyes. If you have a downturned eye like mine, you don't want your brows to come down too much. So what I do is I follow my brow shape when I fill them in, but then what I do is I take a little bit of concealer on a synthetic brush and I just take the tiniest amount and I carve out my brows. Now you will have likely seen this done in many YouTube tutorials, but not everybody needs it for the purpose that those of us with hooded and downturned eyes need it for. We need it to give the optical illusion that our eyes aren't so downturned and hooded. So what I do is I start in the inner portion of my brow, and then when I get to this point, I bring it outward. Instead of going down, instead of letting the color of the brow or the brow hairs angle down, I want it to kind of go outward towards my temple, not down towards my ear, but out towards my temple. And then if I see any stray brow hairs there, I just go ahead and pluck them. So not only is this shaping the brow to give it a more lifted appearance, but you're also highlighting the brow bone area without having to put any color there, because you really don't want to put any shimmer or anything that's going to, especially if you have a more fleshy hooded lid, you really don't want a lot of shimmer on the brow bone. If I put shimmer under the brow bone at all, it's right there, right underneath the arch of the brow. But when you do this technique, you really don't need to put anything under the brow unless you want to set it with a matte ivory or a matte white or whatever works the best with your particular skin tone. So now you can see that instead of my brows arching down and bringing the whole eye more downward, I'm bringing it more out versus down. Now in my original Don't Do Your Makeup Like a YouTuber video, I told you the importance of starting with a lid color versus a transition color like every other YouTuber does. And I do it myself sometimes. It's still a habit that is definitely hard to break if you've been doing it for a long, long time, taking that brush and just going back and forth with a transition color. And in that video, I showed you how to apply the lid color first and then basically apply the transition color last. Because I did that technique in that video, I want to show you something that is still different than the traditional YouTube way, but I think it's really going to help you, and it's also going to work better for those of you that do have that more fleshy or more heavy hooded lid. So the first thing I'm going to do is forego using a big fluffy brush to do that transition color, and I'm going to go in with a small flat shader brush. This is a Morphe M124, and I am going to go in. I know you're going to freak out when you see this, but I am going to go in with this dark color from MAC. It's called Embark. And I'm going to go in with the tip of this brush, pick up some color, tap off my excess. And now I am going to look into my mirror. And you see where my hood is, the fold? And I am going to raise my brows so I can see more of the lid, more of where my crease should be. And I am going to carve out almost as if I was doing a cut crease. Raising your brows is really important so you can see more of the lid. So I'm going right where my crease would be if my eyes weren't hooded and going just a little bit above. Next, I'm taking a small crease brush. This is a Sigma E47 crease. And I'm going in with a little bit lighter brown. This is Brown Script from MAC, but keep in mind you don't need to use these exact products, these exact brands. You don't need to use MAC. You can use whatever brand of reddish brown or deep brown that you have. So once again, going in and tapping. And now we're going to start to blend out that crease. I've said this many, many times in my videos that if you have smaller eyes or more hooded eyes, smaller brushes are going to be your friend, because bigger brushes tend to make a bigger mess when you don't have a lot of space to work with. This brush is amazing. I'm just going back and forth in a windshield wiper motion, and then I'm bringing it up to where the more prominent fleshy area of my eye is. I have a lot of, I keep saying fleshy, I don't really know what other word to use, but you want to get this area darkened so it looks more recessed. You can see how this is hanging down, whereas now this looks a lot more recessed. And then I'm not adding any more color, you just kind of keep blending. So now it no longer looks like a dark brown line. What we're going to do next is work on forming that outer V. Now, if you have a downturned eye, you can do one of two things. You can try to exaggerate it upwards, or you can still do a more rounded eye shape. It will still give you that lifted appearance, because on some eye shapes, some face shapes, a real almond cat eye just doesn't look right. So if you need to experiment. And that's what I think a lot of people are afraid to do. They're just afraid to try different techniques. They'll see a YouTuber do it a certain way and they'll feel like, well, that's the way it should be done. But the truth is, makeup application and technique is not one size fits all. So you kind of have to take what you hear from this person and what you hear from this person and experiment and see just what works for you. I did show this technique in my other video as well, and it has not changed, except the brush that I'm using has changed because I have fallen in love in the last year or so with the Sigma winged liner brush, E06. It's great if you want to apply a gel eyeliner, or if you want to give yourself a guide for your eyeliner, or if you just want to give yourself a guide for your eyeshadow. So, which is what we're going to do right now. So what you want to do is you want to follow your lower lash line. So I start on the outer corner, and look how great this brush works for just getting right in there. And I highly, highly recommend a magnifying mirror. Yes, sometimes it shows us things that we don't really want to see up close, but when you're working on the eyes, it's really, really important. So I started on that outer corner, and I'm just taking it up. There's that little fold that I have there from the hood, but I'm just totally ignoring it and going right over it. And then I'm just blending it out towards the tail of my brow. I'm going back in with Embark and that same brush that we started with. And I'm just patting on the color using this line we've just drawn as our guide. So I'm really keeping this right at the outer corner. And keep in mind, if you were to use a fluffy brush, you wouldn't get this amount of detail. And everything can be blended with a larger brush. It's just easier to apply shadows and product with a smaller brush. Now this is the point where we go in with our big fluffy brush. This is a Sigma Tapered Blending E40, and it has nothing on it, and we are just blending. We are blending everything together. Now here's a little trick for anyone who feels like they may have gone too high with their eyeshadow and it just doesn't look right, or you feel like the upper portion needs to be blended a little bit more. Then take a brow bone shade. You know, I said earlier that you don't have to put a brow bone shade there, but sometimes I do this step just because I have gone too high up. And what I like to do, usually I like to have both eyes done before I do this step, just so I can make sure they're even, but because I don't have time to do both eyes on camera, I'm just doing one at a time. But just taking the shade from MAC, it's called Vanilla, it's just a matte ivory and a flat shader brush. And I am lightly going over the top portion of the eyeshadow. If you were doing a rounded eyeshadow look versus an almond eyeshadow look, you could actually take this around here as well to make it more rounded. Now, what are we gonna do with this lid space? This is where you can have some fun. Those of us with hooded eyes, we don't have to be left out of the beautiful lid colors that we see other people using, and you can apply a vibrant green. You can apply a shimmery neutral. One of my favorite colors, pretty much of all time, is MAC's Woodwinked eyeshadow. It looks very dull and blah in the container, but on the eyes, it is absolutely stunning. So I'm taking a flat synthetic brush. This is actually a concealer brush that I picked up for like $1 at the drugstore. And notice how almost all of the brushes I'm using have been small. And I'm gonna go into Woodwinked, and I'm going to apply that to my lid. And I'm taking it right up to where I had applied and blended out that first brown color. Now that I've applied Woodwinked to the lid, I'm taking my shader crease brush once again, going back into my brown script. And just kind of blending it all together. I actually want to make this outer corner a little bit deeper, so I'm going into Deep Damson, using that flat Morphe brush again, and just patting. Now at this point you can go ahead and use whatever eyeliner you choose, but I will say that a pencil oftentimes leaves too thick of a line. When we're working with such limited lid space, you don't want a harsh or thick line of eyeliner on your upper lashes. Tight lining, which I'm going to show you and I showed you in my other hooded eye video, is far more important and far more effective. But what I like to do is I do like to take some eyeshadow. For some reason, I don't have a black eyeshadow down here, which is what I would normally use, but you use whatever shade you're comfortable with. I'm going to use Handwritten from MAC. It's just another deep brown, dark brown, almost like a black brown. And I'm using that same Sigma Winged Liner EO6, and I'm just pressing it right along my lash line, because we want it to look more like an enhancement of the lashes versus actual liner. Now for the bottom lash line, I like to go all the way in using the same product, same brush, but just always making sure that when you get to this outer corner of the eye, that you're lifting it upwards. You never want it to go out, and you don't want it to be too thick in this area because that will also weigh the eye down. So make sure that it's a thin line and it's always lifting upwards. So even without mascara, I think you can see a huge difference. So I'm going to go ahead and do the other eye and show you a couple more tips and we'll be done. So the eyeshadow portion of this tutorial is pretty much done. Now I am going to curl my lashes. Now I'm going to tightline, which means that I am going to be placing a black pencil, or you can use dark brown, on the under side of my lashes. This makes such a difference, especially if you have sparse lashes or if you're not going to be putting a lot of eyeliner on the upper lid. Now I'm adding some mascara. This one is from Sam Marcel Cosmetics. I use this one on my upper lashes and then the MAC Extended Play Giga Black Lash on the bottom lashes. So now that everything is pretty much complete, this is the point where you want to look in the mirror and see if you're even on both sides. If you're like me, one of your eyes is more hooded and more downturned than the other. So it isn't until you're completely finished that you look and you realize, you know what? This side is a little bit higher than this side. And I personally like the way this side looks a little bit better. So I'm going to go back in with my Sigma Shader Crease E47, and I'm not going to put any product on it. I am just going to take the tip of the brush and extend the eyeshadow up a little bit higher, because there's still some product left over from before. And if I add more, then I'm going to create a mess. So I'm just using it with nothing else on it. And I'm just blending it upward until I am even. And now I'm even. I know that in my previous videos, I've touched on the big difference that lashes can make, and corner lashes, especially if you are someone who doesn't like a full strip lash, or if you're like me where the inner corners of your eyes go in as well as the outer corners, so it's almost like a rainbow shape. They're downturned in the inner and outer corners, so sometimes lashes, they can feel very uncomfortable in this portion of the eye. So I recommended cutting them and just using the outer corners to give that lift. Well, nowadays, I'm so excited that they have these cluster lashes. They're trios. Now, these might have been around when I did the first video, but I think they're a lot easier to find now. I think Ardell's making them now. It used to be just Kiss lashes, but this is what they look like. These are the Ardell Knotted Flare Trios in long, but you can use small or medium. I'm going to use both mediums and longs, and I'm going to put a little bit of glue in one of the wells. And I'm gonna wait approximately 30 to 60 seconds for the glue to get tacky. Otherwise, if I try to place the lash trios along my lash line without the glue being tacky, they're gonna slide all over. And that's where I think people get really frustrated with false lashes, is that they don't let the glue dry enough to the point where it gets tacky. So what I do is I take the trio and I dip it into the glue. I'm starting with mediums and I'm just placing them on the outer third of my eye. If I broke my eye up into 3 portions, inner, center, and outer, I'm placing it on the outer third. So I placed 2 on the end and I'm gonna go in with a long. So the long is what's gonna give it that flare and that uplift to the end. Now you can stop right here and just leave it flared on the end, or you can continue to put the lashes strategically where you feel is most flattering to your eye shape. So this is the finished eye look. If you would like to go over the lash line, if you've applied lashes with a liquid liner or some more dark shadow, then you can go ahead and do that. Okay, everybody, that's it. I really hope you enjoyed this updated for 2018 hooded and downturned eye tips and tricks video tutorial. If you did enjoy it, please go ahead and give me a thumbs up. If you're not subscribed to my channel, I would love it if you would hit that subscribe button and that notification bell so you never miss an upload. I would love to have you as part of the Risa Does Makeup family. You can also follow me on Instagram and Facebook and Twitter. Everything is all under the same name. It's all Risa Does Makeup. Thank you guys so much for watching. I really hope you learned something, a new tip, a new trick. I really can't stress this enough. I make videos to help you, the viewer, and when I receive feedback that's telling me that I am succeeding in that I have changed your makeup game, even in some small way, it makes me feel so good and it validates everything I try to do, and all the effort I put in makes it so worthwhile. So with that said, please subscribe to my channel and hit that notification bell. I would love to have you as part of the Risa Does Makeup family. You can also follow me on Instagram, Snapchat, Twitter, Facebook. Everything is all the same name. It's all Risa Does Makeup. I thank you once again for watching, and I look forward to seeing you again very soon.